quiet neighborhood of Chicago, USA.
What do you want?
A humble young
Just to
woman
help.
named Emma lived in a small, one-bedroom apartment
Here,
on the
this will
third
keep you
floor of
warm.
an old brick
Thanks,
building.
we were getting
The
chilly.
paint on the walls was slightly chipped.
Better?
The furniture was simple and secondhand, and the kitchen was barely big, enough for one person to stand comfortably. But despite her limited means, Emma kept her home neat and warm. She believed that no matter how small a place was, it could still be filled with peace and dignity. Emma worked 2 jobs, one at a local cafe in the mornings, and another at a grocery store in the evenings. Life had never been easy for her. After losing her parents at a young age, she had learned to survive on her own. Every dollar she earned was carefully planned for rent, food and community college tuition. Even though she struggled financially, she never allowed hardship to make her bitter. Instead, it made her kinder, one cold, rainy evening. As Emma walked home from work, she noticed something unusual. Near the closed grocery store, across the street from her apartment building, under the flickering streetlight, she saw a man sitting on the sidewalk with a young boy curled up beside him. They were soaked from the rain. The man tried to shield the boy with his thin jacket, but it wasn't enough. The child looked tired and hungry. Emma slowed her steps. She could have walked past them like many others. Probably had, after all. She barely had enough for herself. But something in the boy's eyes stopped her. There was no anger, no complaint, just quiet exhaustion. Taking a deep breath, Emma walked toward them. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. The man looked up, surprised. His face showed signs of stress, yet there was a quiet dignity in his posture. "We'll be fine," he replied softly. "Just passing through. We had some bad luck today." Emma hesitated for only a moment before making a decision that would change her life forever. "You can't stay out here in this weather," she said firmly. "I don't have much, but you and your son can stay at my apartment tonight." The man looked stunned. "You don't even know us," he said. Emma offered a small smile. "I know you need help, that's enough." After a brief pause, the man nodded gratefully. He helped his son stand, and together they followed Emma across the street. As they climbed the narrow staircase to her apartment, Emma felt a strange sense of purpose. She didn't know their story. She didn't know their past. But she knew that sometimes the smallest act of kindness could mean everything to someone. That night in her tiny apartment in Chicago, Emma made space not only in her home, but in her heart, and she had no idea that this simple decision was the beginning of something extraordinary. Emma quickly handed the man a dry towel and found an old sweater and sweatpants that might fit him for the little boy. She brought out a soft hoodie she used to wear during college and a pair of warm socks. The boy's small hands trembled as he changed, and Emma felt her heart ache. She hurried to the kitchen and heated a simple meal: tomato soup, toasted bread, and the last of her homemade pasta from the fridge. It wasn't much, but she served it with care. The man introduced himself as Daniel, and his son as Leo. Leo looked about 7 years old, with bright eyes that seemed older than his age. Once the warmth of the apartment surrounded them, and the food was placed in front of him, Leo's expression slowly changed. He began eating quietly at first, then more eagerly. Emma noticed how Daniel gently reminded his son to say thank you and eat slowly. There was something refined about his manners, calm, composed and respectful. "We recently arrived in the city," Daniel explained. "Our luggage was misplaced and our wallets were stolen earlier today." "It's been difficult," Emma nodded sympathetically. "That must be scary, especially with a child." Daniel gave a faint smile. "It is, but we'll manage." Emma spread a blanket on her small couch for Daniel and prepared her own bed for Leo, insisting the child should sleep comfortably. Daniel protested at first, but Emma wouldn't listen. "He needs rest more than I do," she said softly later that night. After Leo had fallen asleep, Emma and Daniel spoke quietly in the dim light of the kitchen. Daniel asked about her life. She told him about working 2 jobs, about saving for her education, and about her dream of opening her own cafe one day. Daniel listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. Unlike most people, he didn't interrupt or judge. His attention felt genuine. "You're very strong," Daniel said. After a pause, Emma laughed lightly. "Not strong, just trying to survive like everyone else." Daniel studied her for a moment, as if measuring her words. Not everyone would open their door to strangers. Emma shrugged. "Maybe, but I believe if we stop helping each other, what kind of world are we building?" Daniel didn't respond immediately. There was something thoughtful in his eyes, almost as if her words had touched him deeply. The next morning, Emma woke up early to prepare breakfast before heading to work. She made scrambled eggs and coffee, apologizing for the simplicity of the meal. But Daniel seemed unusually grateful for every small gesture. As Emma left for her morning shift at the cafe, she noticed Daniel step outside to make a phone call. His posture was different, confident and authoritative. His tone was calm but commanding, nothing like the worried traveler she had met the night before. Emma paused for a brief second, sensing something she couldn't quite understand. There was more to Daniel than he had revealed, but Emma pushed the thought aside. She trusted her instinct to help, not to question. Little did she know, the truth about the man she had sheltered was far beyond anything she could imagine. Emma returned home that evening feeling exhausted, but satisfied after a long shift at the cafe. As she walked toward her apartment building, she noticed something unusual. A sleek black luxury car was parked directly in front of the entrance. It looked completely out of place in her modest neighborhood. Two men in sharp suits stood beside it. Scanning the building anxiously, Emma slowed her steps. Confused visitors like that never came to this part of town. As she reached the staircase, the apartment door opened and Daniel stepped outside. He was no longer wearing the borrowed sweater and sweatpants. Instead, he stood in a perfectly tailored dark suit. His posture straight and commanding, his hair was neatly styled, and his entire presence felt different, stronger, more powerful. The two suited men immediately approached him. "Sir, we've been searching everywhere," one of them said with visible relief. "Your phone was unreachable. The board members are waiting." Emma froze at the bottom of the stairs. "Sir, board members?" Daniel glanced toward Emma and their eyes met. For a brief moment, silence filled the air. Then he gently excused himself from the men and walked down to her. "I owe you an explanation," he said calmly. Emma crossed her arms, still trying to process what she was seeing. "I think you do." Daniel took a deep breath. "My full name is Daniel Harrington. I am the CEO of Harrington Global Enterprises." Emma's heart skipped. She had heard of that company. It was one of the fastest-growing investment firms in the country, with offices across major U.S. cities. "I don't understand," she whispered. Daniel explained that a few months earlier, he had been betrayed by a close business partner who attempted to manipulate company finances. The experience shattered his trust. He began questioning everyone around him, friends, colleagues, even extended family. He no longer knew who valued him for himself and who valued him for his wealth. "I needed perspective," Daniel continued. "I wanted to see how people treat you when they believe you have nothing to offer them." So he made a decision with only his young son, Leo. He traveled quietly to different cities without revealing his identity. He wanted Leo to understand the world beyond privilege. He wanted to test humanity. "And then we met you," Daniel said softly. Emma felt a mixture of shock, confusion, and slight embarrassment. "You tested me," Daniel shook his head. "Not you specifically, life did. You didn't hesitate, you didn't ask for anything in return. You simply saw two people in need." The suited men waited respectfully by the car. While Emma tried to steady her thoughts, everything from the night before replayed in her mind. The quiet dignity in Daniel's posture, his polished manners, his confident phone call that morning. It all made sense now. Leo suddenly ran out of the building and hugged Emma tightly. "Thank you for letting us stay," he said sweetly. "Daddy says you're the kindest person we've met." Emma knelt down and smiled at him. Her heart softening, Daniel looked at her with genuine respect. "Your kindness reminded me of something I had almost forgotten, that real wealth isn't measured in money." Emma didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing for certain. The stranger she had sheltered was not just a millionaire. He was a man searching for something far more valuable. After the truth was revealed, Emma stood quietly on the sidewalk, still trying to absorb everything Daniel had told her. The rain from the previous night felt like a distant memory, yet the impact of her decision still lingered in her heart. She had simply opened her door to help someone in need. She never imagined that the man she offered soup and shelter to was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation. Daniel approached her once more before leaving. "Emma," he said sincerely, "you helped us when you believed we had nothing to give you in return. That says more about your character than any resume ever could." Emma felt slightly uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what anyone should do," she replied softly. Daniel smiled. "Unfortunately, not everyone does." Before stepping into the luxury car, he handed her a small card. "Allow me to return the kindness, not as charity but as opportunity. If you're willing, I would like you to visit my office tomorrow." Emma watched as the car drove away, leaving her standing in front of her old brick building. Her mind was racing. Part of her wondered if this was real. Another part feared that accepting anything might change who she was. The next morning, after much thought, Emma decided to go. She wore her simplest but neatest outfit and traveled downtown to the towering glass headquarters of Harrington Global Enterprises. The building was everything. Her world was not modern, polished, powerful. When she entered, the receptionist greeted her respectfully and guided her to the executive floor. Moments later, Daniel walked in. Professional yet warm, I meant what I said, he began. I believe character matters more than background. I've reviewed your education and work history. You are hardworking, disciplined, and ambitious. Emma blinked in surprise. You checked my background. Daniel smiled lightly, only to see your potential. He then made an offer that left her speechless. A managerial trainee position within the company, full sponsorship for completing her business degree, and mentorship under senior executives. It wasn't a gift. It was an investment in her future. Tears filled Emma's eyes, not because of the salary or prestige, but because someone believed in her ability. I don't want special treatment, she said honestly. You're not getting special treatment. Daniel replied, you earned respect through your actions. Emma accepted the opportunity, promising herself she would work harder than ever. Over the following months, she proved that Daniel's trust was well placed. She brought fresh ideas, compassion for employees, and integrity into every meeting. Yet despite her new environment, Emma never forgot her roots. She continued volunteering at shelters and helping those in need, just as she had that rainy night. One evening as she left the office, she reflected on how a single act of kindness had changed her life. She realized something powerful. True wealth isn't about money, titles, or status. It's about the courage to help someone when you have every reason not to. And sometimes, when kindness is given freely, life responds with opportunities beyond imagination.